I'm getting rid of every Premier League team's players and forcing them all to rebuild their squads in a draft. Using Football Manager's fantasy draft mode, I've recreated all 20 teams who will pick 20 players each from a pool of 1,600. The draft order is totally random, so we won't know who's going to pick first until we hit begin draft. Each team gets one pick every round, and we'll reverse the order every round to keep it fair. I think Erling Haaland has to be the go-to first pick, but let me know down in the comment section, if you were up first, who would you pick? And it's West Ham who have been given the first pick. Also, you may realise they're called Western Hammers because in Fantasy Draft, you can't have a real-life team name as your fantasy team name. So I've had to get all Pro Evolution Soccer with this. We've got Merseyside Red, Manchester Blue, and my personal favourite, Diamond Castles for Crystal Palace.
You're not funny, Tom.
So technically, I'm the manager of all of these clubs. But if I let the 15-second timer run down, the AI picks for me. And for the first pick, the AI has chosen Erling Haaland. And Sheffield United are up next, and they go for Mohamed Salah. Two really interesting picks. Haaland makes complete sense. Salah's very good, but he's getting on a bit. Spurs, on the other hand, with their first pick, are choosing Heung-min Son. They've gone for a player they already have, and I rate it highly. Liverpool are up next, and they decide to go for Gabriel Jesus, the striker. Very interesting that the first four picks have all been attacking players, no defenders or goalkeepers or centre mids really. Brentford are up next, and with their first pick, they're going for Christopher Nkunku. Now I feel like there are a lot of better players in the Premier League than Nkunku. I'll be very interested to see how that one works out for them by the end of the video. Up next is Burnley, and they pick Alexander Isak, who's a way better striker in my opinion than Nkunku, so I'm not quite sure what the other team were thinking about there. Manchester United have the next pick, and with their first pick of the draft, they go for Gabriel Martinelli. Very sensible long-term option. Up next is Crystal Palace, and with their first pick of the draft, they're choosing Romelu Lukaku. A little bit old, but I'm sure he'll get them plenty of goals in the first few seasons. Newcastle are up next, and they pick Darwin Núñez. Looking forward to seeing him score 4 goals across the season from an XG of 40. Chelsea have the 10th pick of the draft, and they are going for Evan Ferguson. Wow, they're really going young and sticking to their real-life principles of buying wonder kids. Up next, we have Wolverhampton Wanderers, or Werewolves as I've called them in this, which is one of my personal favourite names. They've chosen Marcus Rashford. With the 12th pick of the draft, Luton Town have chosen Cody Gakpo. So now we are 12 picks in, and we've not seen any defenders yet. Aston Villa are up next. Hopefully they'll go for a defender, but they go for Julian Alvarez. The AI clearly is very attacking focused. Nottingham Forest up next, and they, with the 14th pick of the draft, are going for Rasmus Højlund, which I think is probably the worst pick so far. I don't think he's that good in the game. Brighton and Hove Albion are going next, and they are picking Diogo Jota. That means Man City are one of the last picks of this round, but one of the first picks of next round, and they're going for Callum Wilson. Now that one is the most puzzling, but maybe they watch a lot of Football Manager videos because Callum Wilson is very overpowered. Up next we've got Arsenal, and they pick Nicholas Jackson. Hopefully they've not been watching him in real life because he's been very poor this season. Bournemouth up next, and they go for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, a very sensible draft pick. Fulham have the penultimate pick of the first round, and they've decided to go for Moussa Diaby. Maybe they're going for a whole lot of pace in their team. And finally, we have got Everton, who pick Jeremy Doku with the 20th overall pick. Now the draft goes back round to Everton to have the first pick of the second round. So naturally, I'm keeping a spreadsheet of the picks, and Haaland is obviously the best pick of that round. But I think Evan Ferguson could be a pretty clever pick in the long run, and so could Jeremy Doku at Everton. But amazingly, every single one of those players is an attacker, which has got me a little bit concerned. I mean, Everton have the double pick, so are they going to go for a defender? But as the draft pick timer ticks down, they've gone for Kevin De Bruyne. Okay, Everton are just picking Man City players. Anyway, I'm going to let this run in the background whilst I do some other stuff. 15 seconds a pick for 20 picks around for 20 rounds equals 100 minutes, and I don't really want to sit here talking for 100 minutes. So we'll come back and go through the teams once the draft is done.
2 hours later.
Right, let's go through these teams in draft order, starting with West Ham, who of course got Erling Haaland with their first pick, but they also got João Pedro as well, which is a huge strike partnership. They've also got the best Premier League goalkeeper in Ederson, Zinchenko at left back, Walker right back, Timber in the back line as well. Big fan of Hwang Hee-chan. Not quite sure how I feel about the midfield picks and Guedes as well, but if they can keep defensively strong and feed Haaland, they're going to have a very good chance of winning. Sheffield United, on the other hand, I don't think they've done quite as well. Now, their first pick was Salah, and they've got Hudson-Odoi and Fabio Vieira to back him up on the wings. The midfield four, actually, of Shaw, McAllister, Bissouma and Alexander-Arnold is really strong, and they've got some decent centre-backs, but they're not the best in the game. So I think they've done well, but not as good as West Ham. Spurs, of course, picked up Son with their first pick, and they've also got Richarlison and Maddison in their starting line. They've just picked their own players. But I actually really like this. Might be my favourite team so far. Other than Kehrer in the back line, they've not really got anyone else on the bench they could maybe bring in for him. So no defensive depth really, but I really enjoy this team. It seems well balanced, some really good quality in there. I think they could go on to win the title. Next up, Liverpool, who picked Gabriel Jesus as their first pick, and the rest of the picks aren't amazing. Cancelo at right back, only on loan at Barcelona, of course, from Man City, is a pretty decent pick, but I don't think anyone else is a standout player in their position. Don't think these guys are going to do particularly well, but they will do better than Brentford. Nkunku was their first pick. Now, I like Nkunku, Mudryk and Kudus as the front three, but Eze, Sarr and Kovacic in the middle, I'm not quite sure I'm so keen on. Tierney and Emerson Royal are okay. Pau Torres is decent. Maguire's decent in game, to be fair. And Martinez is a solid keeper. But I don't think these guys are going to be troubling for the title. Burnley's pick of Alexander Isak was good. They've also got Josko Gvardiol in there, who's a good pick. Andy Robertson's a very good pick at left back. Probably the best left back in the Premier League in FM24. I'm actually pretty impressed with the bench, actually. Kai Havertz, Ollie Watkins, they're both high quality players. I suspect this won't be what they actually play. I suspect actually they may bring Watkins on for, I don't know, Neto and play something like that. And maybe bring, I don't know where they put Kai Havertz on, to be fair, maybe somewhere in midfield potentially. If they played with two strikers there at the same time, that would be a lethal attack. And Manchester United look like they are going to play with two strikers, and Nketiah and Martinelli up top. I don't know how strong that really is. They're both very good players, but they're not on the same level as Isak and Watkins from Man United, of course. The front four is very good. Midfield two, a bit shaky. The centre-backs and goalkeeper I'm not so keen on, but I do like Ben White and Estupinian. I think they're solid. Crystal Palace had the 9th pick, and whilst Lukaku will lead the line very well, with Udogie and Livramento, very good wing-backs, I don't think the rest of the team is really going to be that great. Lucas Paqueta, probably the best of the rest of them. I don't think we'll see these guys troubling for a title. Newcastle have a very good spine of the squad. Nunez up front is very good. Gravenberch and Tonali in the middle, really solid. Felipe and Fofana at centre-back and Vicario just behind them. Really good spine. It's out wide where I've got a few questions. I don't think they're going to have the squad depth to go on to win a title. Now, Chelsea have got a really good front four, but the rest of the team behind them, I'm not quite sure they're going to do much. They may actually do worse than Chelsea in real life. Wolves went for Rashford with their first pick and partnered with Bundia, McGinn and Tony. It's a solid front four. Casemiro's great behind them. Patterson and Hickey on the wing-back roles will be good in a few years' time. They may not be up for it just yet. Duncan Shaw together in the middle, it's okay. Turner at the back, not so pleased with. I think we'll see mid-table mediocrity. Now, Luton have actually got a really decent team here. Enzo Fernandez and Tielemans in the middle is solid. I think Sancho out wide is alright. He's very good in the game. The guy on the right wing, Zhao, I can't pronounce his name. He's on loan in Belgium from Burnley right now. I think he's okay. What I would probably do actually maybe is put Gakpo on the wing, have Beto up front on his own, and then put someone else in behind. Potentially Lallana. I mean, maybe it's not a great pick there in the end. But I also think their backline is really... I think this team can actually go on to win. It just depends how good the front 3/4 are going to end up being. Now, if Aston Villa got better centre mids than Curtis Jones and Andre Santos, I think they could be on to a winner, particularly with how strong that back four and the goalkeeper and Caicedo is actually. I mean, that could be a Premier League winning back line. Maybe I'm being a little bit kind there to Tsimikas and Alvarez potentially, but I think they are very good. My worries come to the backups on the bench. I don't think they've got particularly good depth, and that might let them down. I think Forest had the worst pick of the first round with Højlund, and I think they're going to come bottom of the table. This team just looks horrendous to me. They've got a few good individual players, Bruno Guimaraes, Varane, Trossard, all pretty decent players, but I don't think collectively it's going to be a great team, particularly looking at the backups as well. I just think it's very average. Brighton are in a better shape, but they just don't have a recognised striker playing up top. Jota is much more of a winger. They have got this guy who I've never heard of before on the bench. He must be a youngster for probably Chelsea. Oh, and Fabio Silva as well, but again, he's not really lived up to his potential. So without that real goal scorer in the team, I'm a little bit concerned. Man City chose Callum Wilson and they've got him up top. They've got Raheem Sterling back. They've also got Declan Rice and John Stones. It's an alright team. I think they'll be top half, but I don't see them challenging for a title. I just don't think they've got enough quality. Arsenal could challenge if they change up formation slightly. Alex Scott at right wing back, maybe not the best of choices there, but Jackson, if he does do well in Football Manager, will play well. Grealish and Antony on the wings, I think, are solid. And with Rodri, Akanji and Matip at the back, they should be okay, but there's a few question marks about a few other players in the starting lineup, so I don't think we'll see them win a title, but I think they'll be comfortably mid-table. Bournemouth have got great picks in Calvert-Lewin, Diaz, Odegaard and Jorginho and Saliba. The rest of them... Fulham went for Moussa Diaby with their first pick, and like a couple other teams, they've not really got a recognised striker in the starting lineup or squad as a whole, and that could hold them back, even with the quality of Diaby, Foden and Silva in that front three. Badiashile and Diaz and Verbruggen actually at the back are all solid. I think this team could do pretty well. They might challenge for the top four spots. And finally, Everton, again, they're playing Doku up top, not a recognised striker. He could score goals with De Bruyne feeding him, Saka and Kulusevski. In fact, this could be the best front 3-4 that we've seen, because they're great players. I just want to have a striker there instead of Doku, maybe play Doku instead of Kulusevski alongside Saka. As you go further back, they've got Van Dijk, who is solid, but Steele, Dyer, Williams, Reguilon, Endo, Dominguez, no. So, you know, they're like a weightlifter who forgets leg day. Brilliant up top, but not so great on the legs. So based on those teams, I think we'll see West Ham do very well with Haaland and João Pedro, and I think we'll see Luton do really well. I enjoyed their team. So now what we have to do is simulate through the seasons, where Manchester City end up winning the Premier League title. This is the bit where you're going to have to bear in mind with all of the Pro Evolution Soccer names, but I think they're pretty self-explanatory. So Man City won it by 11 points in the end. Obviously, they were a lot better than I was expecting. I didn't think they'd do all that much. My two favourites for the title, West Ham, they came in 4th place, and Luton all the way down in 13th. But I did say Nottingham Forest would come bottom of the table, and there they are. So in reality, Man City played a 4-4-2 with Martial and Callum Wilson up top, with both of them bagging a ridiculous amount of goals. All the midfield four chipped in with a good amount of goals as well, and John Stones obviously scored quite a few from corners with his 6 goals as well. So clearly I underestimated this team, and as it is in real life, in this made-up world where we get rid of everyone's players, Man City still win. Brighton came second and looks like they played a 4-4-2 as well. Potentially because I was on holiday for the entire thing and I'm technically the manager of every single club, they've just all defaulted to a 4-4-2. But there's not that many goals in the team, so I am thinking they maybe just won a lot of games 1-0 or 2-1. So Erling Haaland topped the scoring sheets with 25 goals for West Ham as they came in 4th place, with then Wilson and Martial making up 2nd and 3rd to win Man City the title. But Lukaku won the most Player of the Match awards for Crystal Palace, and Pedro Neto got most assists by a long way for Burnley. I'm surprised Man City have won this. I think in Season 2 they'll drop down the table quite a bit. And they did. They dropped down to 7th place as one of my favourites, West Ham, go on to win the title by a single point ahead of Manchester United. Luton also recovered to 5th place. I thought they'd have a good chance of winning the title. And once again, Nottingham Forest finish bottom of the table. West Ham playing a 4-3-3 actually, so not every team playing a 4-4-2. Erling Haaland this time around got 27 goals. Although I've just realised I don't think this is giving us the full information, because if we click into Erling Haaland, it says he's scored 31 goals in 37 games, which is what the stats are saying as well, so I think we'll trust this page more. Lukaku once again proving to be a really solid pick there with 24 goals and the second highest scorer, but Salah this time creeps into the top 5 with 20 goals. It's also interesting to see how different the assist chart is. I think there's completely different players in it this time around as well. In Season 3, West Ham are title winners again, but Manchester City recover to second place. And once again, Nottingham Forest are rock bottom of the table. It's another 1-2-3-4 Haaland, Lukaku and Callum Wilson in the goal scoring charts, but Dominic Szoboszlai comes in with 21 out of nowhere. But in Season 4, Bournemouth beat Brighton on goal difference to win the title. Two teams that I feel have come out of nowhere a little bit. Bournemouth do have a really decent strike force in Solanke and Calvert-Lewin, a very good midfield. It's the back line that I think we questioned previously, but clearly they've done a very good job. I've also just noticed that the teams are getting bigger every season. This is more than 20 players. They've got 25 players now. Like, where are these other guys coming from? So the added players might be having a little bit of an impact on what's going on in the game. Brighton also playing a 4-4-2, and again, it's a team that I wasn't really too impressed with, but they seem to be making it work somehow. Alexander Isak, top scorer with 25 goals, just ahead of Martial and Nkunku. Jota scored 21 goals for Brighton, and Erling Haaland is all the way down in 10th place. He played every single game and underperformed his XG by 10 goals. No idea how he's been able to do that given the attributes that he's got. And for one final simulation, Manchester City lift the title ahead of West Ham. Bournemouth round up the top 3, and Sheffield United come out of nowhere to finish in 4th place. Whereas the team I predicted were going to win a title have finished in 19th place. Luton, what has gone on with you? Haaland got back to the top of the scoring charts with 32 goals across the season, ahead of Lukaku's 24 and Salah and Jesus' 21. So we seem to have a tie with the two best teams of Manchester City and West Ham. Let me know down in the comment section which team you prefer, Manchester City or West Ham. And then once you've done that, check out this video where I gave every single team in the Premier League a huge points deduction equal to a number of points they won last season. So Man City started on minus 89 points. I bet they'll still be able to beat Manchester United.